Welcome back to Marathon Phoenix Commentary. My name is Ryoko TK. This is episode 24, and we'll be talking about the level Intervals. Chapter 6 continues on with some insanely difficult levels. I think Intervals is probably the single hardest, possibly in the entire game overall. The final level, Another Dimension, has moments that are more difficult, but on the whole, this level is absolutely insane. It is very, very hard. Just the circumstances that you're being forced into in some of these fights with very limited health means death comes quickly. This is another non-linear level, and it's got another fairly simple objective. You just need to find 2 uplink chips, put them into 2 slots that are near the chips, and then proceed to the exits. So it's just kind of a continuation of the last level, where you just had to open the path to continue forward. The levels get simpler and simpler as we approach the end of the game here, which was sort of, but not really intentional. And this is going to be the last level that features the 4. So all of the parts of this level basically have tons of bad guys fighting each other. This level was not originally intended to be so hard, and as a result there are some kind of awkward teleport ends. Because originally, okay, so the whole point of Chapter 6 is that we are trying to find and destroy Phoenix. And that sort of goes back to the Gray incident. In the Gray incident, you do have to destroy the Renegade AI, but that's not the end of the game. That wasn't the climax. After you destroy the Renegade AI, there are 2 more levels after that. And for a while, back when this was just supposed to be like a re-release of TGI, that was this was going to be the same thing. This was like the second to last chapter, and so it was leading up to destroying the AI Karma, but that wasn't going to be it. So this level was originally going to be difficult, but not so hard that it was almost unbeatable, which is what it's at now. But sort of the turning point when Phoenix became Phoenix, the game, Phoenix became Phoenix, one of the turning points was that I would make this the end of the game, because that made the most obvious sense. That destroying the AI Phoenix would be the climax of the game. It just kind of made more sense. So I kind of went back and I added in a lot more monsters onto this level, Holy Wars, and Another Dimension, which is the last level, because those levels had all been made prior to Phoenix becoming Phoenix. But as a result, that means some of these fights are a little awkward. But nonetheless, it's a really fun level with a lot of extremely hard fights, which I guess was kind of the point. It occurred to me this morning before I started recording this before I started recording this commentary. I never really spoke about one of my main inspirations for marathon map design in general, Phoenix specifically, but kind of going on to marathon in a more general sense. I talked about Doom a lot, and that is my number 1. That's the game that I kind of base my gameplay against. What does Doom do right? Should I do the same thing that Doom does? So that's number 1, but the other game that is my primary inspiration for particularly my architecture and my map design and composition is Metroid Prime, which probably sounds a little weird. Metroid is a Nintendo franchise of most of them are side-scrolling, like platforming kind of games that have a strong emphasis on exploration and isolation. Kind of one person against a hostile alien environment. And it's a really good game series in general. But when the GameCube was released, they made a new Metroid game called Metroid Prime, which, unlike the others, it wasn't a side-scrolling game, it was a first-person shooter, which was really weird, but it still had the same elements of exploration and isolation and, you know, bizarre alien environments. Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games of all time, one of the best games I've ever played. Just absolutely, just a stunningly good game with just great graphics that still look great today. And the environments in that game are just super cool. It does a lot of what I do, of kind of blending the natural spaces with built environments and it's that sort of alien kind of big stone structures and stuff like that. It's just it's just a great game. I really like it a lot, and that sort of that design has held with me. And there are certain levels in Phoenix that are going to be more reminiscent of Metroid Prime. Something Wicked is one of them. The opening scene where there's that building sitting on the cliff in Something Wicked is cribbed straight out of a scene in Metroid Prime. If you've played the game, it's when you first enter the Phendrana Drifts area, and you're kind of on a low area with a lot of water. It's like ice and water. It's a snow level. And there's this big tower sitting on a cliff, and you have to kind of take a circuitous route through some other ruins in order to get onto the cliff and go into the tower. And that's pretty much exactly how Something Wicked plays out, too. So I think, how Doom kind of informs me as far as, like, how to design more built spaces and levels like this one in a way that makes sense for the, fast gameplay. Metroid Prime helps me more with the natural spaces, and helps me design areas that the Marathon engine is actually capable of doing, which is important because you don't want to try to do something that your engine isn't capable of actually pulling off. So, my architecture is not very realistic. My lighting is not realistic whatsoever. And I'm fully aware of this. I went to school for architecture. I have a bachelor's degree in architecture that I do not use and probably do not plan on using. But I know what architecture is, and I know that that kind of stuff in reality, it's not going to work in a video game, and that's pretty important, of course, when you're designing anything in any video game. Be very willing to break realistic rules in order to make sure that your game actually works. This level itself is just kind of weird, because it kind of doesn't have a purpose. This level's kind of like Stone Temple Pilates, which we did a little while ago. It was really only meant to be sort of a bridge between two other levels, kind of basically a filler. Of course, originally it wasn't going to be this hard, so you were supposed to just breeze through this level fairly quickly. Even though it is non-linear, the level is arranged in a small loop. It's just got some branching spaces off of the loop, so you can't really get lost because it's not that big of a level. But after I kind of went back and made it a lot more difficult, of course the defenders are probably the chief reason why this level is so hard, because it is a non-linear level and it's a fairly small level and it is very open. Very few locked doors on this level. The defenders do whatever they want. So this is the same problem that you see on Neo New Mordor, and then again on like Holy Wars and Face of Modern Gaming, but turned up to 11 because there's tons of defenders. Like this one right here, I have no idea where he came from, and he very nearly killed me, and that's exactly what can happen a lot. So just another tense level with more of that kind of that crazy sort of randomness to it. I guess this might be sort of vaguely interesting. One of the things about the only real thing that I changed in this level for the special edition was that fight that I just kind of abandoned. In earlier versions of this level, there's just like a narrow doorway, and you had to fight through a choke point. And of course, you could just cheese it by closing the door every time enemies started attacking you. But it's the little refinements, like making it more open, and which makes it a lot more challenging, but also a more direct and reasonable fight. That it's important to keep making those little refinements and keep making those small improvements, so that you try to wash out the small irritating parts of your level as you go back through them, to try and make them more fun to play, and just ignore those hiccups. So with the 2 uplink chips put in place, I can get out into this courtyard. This is the boss fight. There's 2 yellow enforcers here. This boss fight's kind of silly. I can just walk right past these guys and go to the exit, but I decided no cheesing for this video, which made recording this episode a lot harder, because these enforcers have just a huge pile of hit points. There was a fight earlier in this level against 3 Mother of All Hunters. It's probably the hardest fight in the game, except maybe for a couple scenes on Another Dimension. If you don't constantly retreat to use the recharger and save, and you just try to beat all 3 Mother of All Hunters in one go, it's very, very hard, because they're standing on a ledge and you're just kind of out in the open. And this is a tricky fight too, just because again they have a lot of health, so you can't just burst them down. So while you're shooting one, the other one has the ability to attack you, and because they fire 2 shots at once, they do quite a lot of damage. But they probably have too much health. I may have gone too far in a few places. But anyway, as this fight winds down, we're reaching the end of this level. We'll be moving on to one of my favorite levels in this whole game, which is Roque Fortress. I'm not sure how I'm actually supposed to pronounce the name of this level that I made, but I'm going to go with Roque Fortress. And we will see that on the next episode. Oh, I'm actually backtracking to use the save. But anyway, thank you for watching this episode of Phoenix Commentary, and I will see you on the next one.